Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumu, and it's great to be on the show where we discuss all things books. Always exciting to be here. One of the things that fascinates me is how we tend to forget important experiences because life is so fast and one thing happens, another one happens, another one happens, and then we forget the ones that happened earlier on. Can you remember when COVID-19 shuts down the world? We were all stuck at home. We were all scared. All over the world, people were afraid. People were dying, and all sorts of news were coming in. And some people thought the world was going to come to an end. And that was just a few years ago. But a lot of us have moved on, and it seems like something that happened a long time ago. But, well, here we are, thankfully. We are still here and the world is still on. But some people help us by documenting history. There's a new book in town, and this book captures the experiences we had as a country with regards to COVID-19, policy development, policy implementation, what happened during that time, vaccination, and so many other very important things that absolutely needed to be documented. Thankfully, somebody has done that. Let's introduce him and then enjoy the conversation we had about this book that is absolutely important.
Professor Isaac Obasi is a professor of public administration, prolific academic writer, newspaper columnist, consultant and author. Professor Obasi, an alumnus of the University of Ibadan, has lectured at the University of Sokoto, now Usmanu Danfodio University, University of Nigeria Nsukka, and currently lectures at the University of Abuja. He was a visiting fellow and an affiliate scholar at the Program on Research and Private Higher Education at the State University of New York, at Buffalo and Albany, United States of America, respectively. Professor Obasi has served as a consultant in various areas of public service reform management, including the Commonwealth and Development Office, United Nations Development Programme, and European Union, among others. He joins Channels Book Club to discuss his book, Nigeria's Policy Response to COVID-19 Pandemic.
Professor Isaac Obasi, great to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
A pleasure. Yeah.
Welcome. Well, Nigeria's policy response to COVID-19 pandemic. You know, first of all, I am often amazed at how quickly, as human beings, maybe more importantly, maybe especially as Nigerians, we forget events that happen to us. And this COVID-19 thing seems like something that happened many years ago in Nigeria, and people have just moved on. But COVID-19, it was just a few years ago, just a few years ago.
Yeah.
So well done writing this, Prof. Nigeria's policy response to COVID-19 pandemic. I would like you to please introduce this book and share with us the story behind it.
When this very devastating pandemic arrived, we were all caught unawares, and initially we thought it was a distant epidemic in India, but then China rather, Wuhan, China. But before we knew what was happening, it spread like wildfire. And the next thing that followed not too long was Nigeria was listed among those whose first incidents occurred. It dawned on us that the virus was with us. The next thing was we had what was called lockdown. That was like people being in prison. And that lockdown was not a very fun experience. It kept many families, of course, almost everybody at home. And we were like people who had nothing to do other than to watch ourselves every day, not sure of the next day. especially when we started hearing of people who were dying one by one. So for me, I felt that time it's good to observe this thing that is unfolding, that if by God's grace I'm alive to see it to the end, I'll be one of those who will record what happened from my own disciplinary perspective, from policy perspective. So I decided to keep myself busy every single day. And in fact, through an online publication outlet, I started writing articles every other day. And I felt that apart from helping us to understand policy response to the pandemic, it's also a call to wake up in the area of governance. Because I discovered that what you call flouting of government policies and rules in the name of impunity, that has eaten deep into our governance system. And the way, even those we call role models, who should lead us and make people to behave rightly, also thought that laws are made for others, not for them. Both in government and as of government. I chronicled this, and I felt I loved doing original research. And I know that since I finished that work internationally, many online selling platforms, marketing platforms have been advertising the book. I don't know how far it goes. You know this work, you do your work, but that's sometimes the credit.
Well done, Prof. Well done, Prof. Well done, particularly because I think we don't do very well in Nigeria. We don't do very well with documenting things like this. I think a lot of experiences like this, well, we don't have a lot of experiences like the pandemic. So, but you get what I mean. A lot of important experiences that we have are not properly documented. And I think that is what makes your book very, very relevant, in my own opinion. It's something that policymakers, citizens, practitioners, everybody can pick up, and read. I'm not sure, Prof. Well, correct me. Is there a book like this written about any other important medical experience that we've ever had in the past? Is there any book like this?
For
example, there was the Ebola. I'm trying to recall. Was there any book?
BPS, yeah, BPS are Bureau for Public Safety Reforms under Dr. Joaba. Did something to chronicle that experience. But like you pointed out, we don't like to document. One, because government will not sponsor such things. Things that have to do with intellectual work. They're not interested. That's not where you get money easily. Those who are in government. So they don't support that. Any money you put there, genuinely it goes into it. So not much it will be pocketed. What is in it for me? So that's why they don't support it. And like you said, in this particular one, for instance, I didn't seek any government support. Because I know that if I did, perhaps collaborated with government, the PTA, for instance, they would have supported me. But that would have in a way gagged me in certain things I would have said. So I decided to do it alone and bear the brunt of sponsoring the work myself, singularly and without any help.
Well done, Prof. I would like you to take viewers through this book in terms of the specifics, the different parts, what you wrote there, and what they should look out for. I'm sure somebody's watching and listening and wants to pick up this book or is wondering what exactly have you written in here. I'd like you to take us through the various parts and provide some kinds of insights into what we have in this very important book.
Thank you very much, Kunle. We have 10 parts. Structurally, the book is divided into 10 major parts. Part 1 deals with introductory and background issues, which of course we talk about how did this virus emanate or originate. Great scientists across the world are still thinking about this as in terms of hypothesis. They've not settled how it originated, although there are some areas of agreement that this is how, but still, we try to bring out that debate in the full for people to know the origin and all that's going behind it. And in part 2, we dealt with the the pandemic and Nigeria's strategic governance challenges, which I had made reference to before. And of course, the first place I started was on the president's temporizing attitude, temporizing style of governance, which is all about delays. And I mentioned that the delay we had in early March, in introducing and imposing the dollar distance, closing our border land and air border, generated a kind of a push that continued to haunt us in the fight against COVID-19. That temporizing attitude is important for in governance to know that don't delay when it is important to take action. But if you delay, the suffering will be much. We saw it happen in America. Trump continued to pretend it wasn't there. At the end of the day, you know how America ended up with it. So we had a couple of chapters under that part 2 that dealt specifically about the pandemic in terms of how it's treated as an emergency, in terms of how our occupational groups, very funny, occupational groups in this country that always make noise and go on strike perennially, thinking who is the best. We are a member of us, and you know how we claim that we are very important in national development. Without us, in quote, nothing happens. During the COVID-19, maybe no time, where were we? You ask ourselves. We fizzled out. Who were on the road, working, trying to save us? You know them. Those in the health sector. So they are my heroes in that aspect. Those who call themselves senators or distinguished and honorable members, where were they? All of them, everybody became nobody during that period of the lockdown. And we're all looking at doctors and nurses as spirits that were to help us. That aspect came out, not just for the pandemic, but for the governance implication of it, that health sector workers must be seen to be important and well remunerated. We don't have to say it many times. We can't really emphasize it many times. And again, I looked at the issue of the pandemic and social class in that part 2. It's very important. COVID-19 respected no class, just like death. But in terms of the one death is even certain that we won't go. COVID-19 was, you can be healthy now, and the next hour or two, things will change. So it was a moment of anxiety and uncertainty that people went through. It's important also to understand that social class. In Nigeria, social class defines everything. If you are nobody, you are Mr. Nobody. And that's why, people will go on jeep, wear all sort of clothes to make themselves noticed in public. Well, that's Nigerian style. But it's important to know that COVID-19 reduced all of us to nothing. And then we looked at it, still in that chapter, the issue of public trust, very critical, very critical. There are many who were doubting government that COVID-19 is not real. Even the catchphrase that COVID-19 was real, many people were still doubting. So somebody would tell me with the first mark and say, Prof, remove this thing, this is over, this is a hawk. Government is using it to earn money. I had to set myself to explain that indeed it is not so, it is real. So forth, there are many things in that area. The other chapter that's important is chapter on the psychology of public officials. How do they operate under safety rules of COVID-19? Many of them thought they were above the law. They behaved as a light. And of course, they didn't give good signals for Nigerians to follow. And that time was followed by another chapter that looked at VIPs. The VIPs and their disdain for protocols. Many of them were caught at the airport trying to, evade following the rules. And that chapter, that part 2 ended, that's chapter 11, ended with Naira Marley. Very interesting what is happening now. Malians and COVID-19 war in Nigeria. The guy came to Abuja, when there was lockdown, with a charter plane, decided to do a concert in Abuja here. And the issues were raised. They thought they would go through it, that Nigeria was operating business as usual. But unfortunately for them, the FCT task force in charge, the guy who was in charge who did a good job, they got them, convicted, prosecuted and convicted, and fined them. And that was a lesson for others to know that nobody's above the law. We must all follow it. Part 3 dealt with COVID-19 policy management. This is where I looked at, the presidential task force how it operated and how government tried to manage it. That chapter zeroed in government policies in various areas, how we did in education, tried to have an exit policy, didn't work. We even tried to postpone WAEC. That would have been the worst decision under COVID-19. And say, look, they'll take it next year. And I kept writing on top of my voice, if there's anything like that, to say that we must take it this year. Let us take precautionary measures. But next year, it might be worse. Indeed, that next year, we had a variant. I think Omicron variant that was worse than what
was than before.
So, yes, we would have had that one before, meaning last year, like the other previous year, that existing year when they were trying to postpone it. And it would have been worse if we had two sets of our students taking work and they had not taken. First problem was God. So I tried to get that done.
Prof, I may have to. There's so many parts in your book, and you've done a good job in introducing at least 3 of them. And we're going to 10. So I'm sure viewers are already excited about what is in the other parts. And personally, you'll find it a bit. The parts that really caught my attention, that I found very interesting, fascinating in some ways, are not the chapters you probably will expect. For example,
Excellent.
I really enjoyed reading how you shared your views about the way Donald Trump responded to the pandemic. His initial skepticism, his slow reaction, his politicizing the pandemic and all that. And then how you also explained, I've forgotten the exact term you use now. Is it spiritual?
Yes, dimension.
The spiritual dimension of it, and yes, I found that place very, very fascinating.
Thank you.
And you explained how the presidents of Burundi and Tanzania, did not have to lose their lives. And I could also perceive your impatience with the idea that people held that the pandemic or coronavirus was not real, was just a conjured, an invented story. I could perceive your impatience with that idea.
Exactly.
And you're not a very big fan of Donald Trump. I could see that from your book.
He followed politics instead of science. He followed politics instead of science.
But I really like the way you went through everything and documented everything, the many sides, the many dimensions to COVID. Even though you already explained at the beginning, I would like you to reemphasize, let me use that word, why it is important to tell the story and to have it documented.
Thank you very much. Many of our public officials, and in government or those who come into, they lack institutional memory.
Institutional memory.
Institutional memory.
I like that, institutional memory.
Thank you. Yes, they like it. And those who are already, or those who have left, they move with their ideas. And those coming up, sometimes when you ask them, they say, oh no, the person has retired. I say, what? If the person is retired, don't you have an institutionalized means of doing things? So the next person who comes will continue from there. So as a public administration scientist, I already know that there is this lack of memory, institutional memory in government. And you needed to put things down easily that people can make reference to. I know that government on its part had these presidential addresses, that President Buhari was there releasing from time to time. I took time to incorporate many of them into the work as appendices, so that it also serves as a fresh first-hand ideas of really what people happen, those who want detail to know things. So documenting things for those in government, it's helpful to them to make sure that they remain on course and feed their eyes on the ball of whatever they want to do, and know that there is a procedure of doing things. You don't just come in and do things anyhow. Why Nigeria did well in COVID-19 is that they followed science. Technocrats and bureaucrats were in charge. Sometimes I joke, and when I'm teaching in class, I said, our president who did not have degrees, maybe because of that lack of those knowledge, he said, those who know, please do it, handle it. That paid us well. It paid us well during COVID-19. Unlike those who think they know and maybe, insisting on certain things and bureaucrats will be, technocrats and professionals will be sidelined. So that was a strength for us. Yes, it was a strength for us.
Prof, well, thank you very much. We've run out of time now, but that's a positive note to leave it. We again forget, we criticize our country so much, we criticize leadership and government, and many times rightly so. However, it's important to remember, as your book has well documented, that Nigeria as a country, within the context of the international community, did quite well in handling COVID-19. On a particular index, we were not like number 4.
Yes.
When it comes to how well countries did in fighting the pandemic. I think that is something we need to be proud of as a country, and that is something to give the past governments, thumbs up for. It could have ravaged this country, but somehow we went through it. May the souls of those that were lost, of course, rest in peace. We cannot, even one life is important. But as a country, generally, I think we did well, and your book has explained why we did so well. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you. I leave you with this issue that people should look for the lessons. The lessons we learned from this policy response, very important. There are many of them I chronicled in the last chapter 65, the last chapter. So that's an area that's very interesting. The ones that are general and the ones that are specific to Nigeria, lessons, policy lessons that can guide us in the future. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity given to me. I'm grateful to you, program, and the whole of Channels Television. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. It's great to have you here, and we look forward to having you here once again.
A pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks
have a
for
great day.
Us. You too. Thank you.
Grit by Obari Gomba. Grit is set in Sonofa, a fictional community. It is a great play that transcends its covers. The pages of the book unfold a captivating narrative that has left an indelible mark, and its production quality is nothing short of excellent. Yam Tarawala, the Warrior King by Henry Akubiro. Yam Tarawala, the Warrior King, is a story of conquest by the great Yamta of Ngazargamu, who leaves his village upset with a defeated aspiration of not being crowned king. He goes on a war campaign, defeating many kingdoms and ruling over them until he meets his doom in the hands of his son. The dramatic twist of the book renders it not only suitable for the stage, but also for the screen. The Ojuelegba Crossroads by Abidin Abolaji. The Ojuelegba Crossroads is a play of plays. It is an extraordinary artifact that seeks to shift the narrative around diverse social discussions like the importance of Africa and the need for Africans to take their position as leaders in global events. The play explores everyday struggles and decision-making conflicts while aiming for a harmonious resolution.
Time is up again. This is something we never have enough of on Channels Book Club. We look forward to getting your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.